Imagine yourself as a young kid growing up in the early 80s. You had your first ever motocross event, and you can smell the iconic two-strokes from a mile away. Hear the rumbles, tumbles and hellish screams as the first heat is getting ready.
It is Hannah in the whole shot, O'Mara next to him.
On the lineup, you see all the bikes that you and your friends talk about. The Honda CR500, the Yamaha YZ490 and the Kawasaki KX500, to name a few. The early 80s is a golden era for big bore two-stroke motocross bikes. They were the talk of the town at every event. They were wild, untamable and frankly scary. But still most dirt bikers wanted one. This is a story of one of those kids that dreamt about this bike and decided to make it a reality, but with a twist. We start with an insightful interview with this kid who is now a father of two himself and a man that made huge waves in the South African short circuit scene in the 80s. I introduce to you the founding members of Team Machine, Rian Rimpis Pretorius and Koos Zietsman. Let's hear their story. Question for you, Koos. You've been racing from the early 70s and since then either been racing or have been part of a racing team.
Yep.
It's safe to say that racing is in your blood. Where did this passion come from?
You know, you gave me those questions a day ago and I've been thinking about it. I think you're born that way. You're just born that way. The story is that in grade 11, we stayed on a plot out near Petersburg. I bought a Honda. I bought it in a crate. Physically in a crate. I paid 12 South African Rand for it, which is about 75 cents US. And I brought it home and I started to dismantle it further and then reassembled it. My dad helped me. He had the thing bored and he put a new piston and rings in. That's when the racing started, because there were other kids on the plots with bikes, newer bikes than mine. I thought I was gung-ho and shit hot, but seriously I started racing competitively, club racing and that kind of thing in the late 70s, 77, 78. In 1980 I was crowned the University of Pretoria Motorcycle Sportsman of the Year.
Sure.
In that same year I started competitively racing, road racing. Always on two strokes, always on bikes I built and developed myself. We've got Dave Sellier here who raced with me in those years, and he remembers very well that my bikes were good, they were not the best, but damn I worked hard. I worked harder than the rest of them. So it started then, but ever since then in 2004 I met Rimpis on the Roof of Africa. I've been involved ever since with the Roof of Africa. So in the meantime I raced 4x4s and whatnot. So racing's in my blood. It started early and it ain't gonna stop.
And you're a mechanical engineer by profession?
Yes sir, from University of Pretoria. We all are, all three of us, all four of us, all five of us. Piet van Zyl as well.
Rimpis, I can ask you the same question. Where did your passion of motorcycles start?
The story is fairly similar. When I was a young kid, all I wanted to do was ride motorcycles and be involved with not really racing, but just to have a motorbike. And we had a farm, a family farm in Klipbankfontein, and there my father also bought us some motorbikes, but it was more broken than we spent more time in the garage fixing it than riding it. So since then I was involved, and we didn't do a lot of races then. But it was always a passion to get the things faster and quicker.
What years were that?
That was in my primary
Because you're a
school.
little bit younger than
Yeah.
I am.
I did matric in 96, so that must be 92.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was also an old scrambler. I think they called it scrambler those days. Yeah, the first bike was a Yamaha 100cc two-stroke, one with a pipe coming out the side. I think it's an R2.
Remember it well.
Yeah. So that was one of the first bikes, and then since then I've been building bikes and selling bikes and trying to get into getting a better bike. Yeah, but the two-stroke thing has always been
Yeah.
in the
We've
primary.
always been there. I have a little story about the two-stroke thing. So a couple of years ago, so he's a roof specialist. He's done the roof 7 times now.
Specialist, but
He's
yes.
a roof specialist, so that's his thing. And a couple of years ago, Yamaha came out with a reverse cylinder 4-stroke with fuel injection, and he wanted one so badly. And so I said to him, well, if you want to do the roof with it, Team Machine is behind you. Go get it, boy. So he bought it. And in preparation for the roof, there was an enduro out near Nelspruit.
Yeah.
Rimpis was participating, and a guy that participated with him the previous year that Rimpis just left for dead lapped him on the second last lap, and Rimpis was just hanging on, trying to get to the finish. He couldn't even chase this guy. That 450 was just killing him. If you want to go into the mountains in Lesotho, don't go there with a big bore 4-stroke. You're dead. So that begs the question, which will come up later: why the hell a big bore 2-stroke? We don't know, but it sounds like fun.
Sounds like a good plan as a time.
Yeah.
Chris, who is Team Machine and what have they achieved in the past?
Well, Timachin is Rimpis and me, basically. In 2008, he started working with me at BAE Systems, and so we used to travel to work and back together. And about 2009 or 2010, he said to me, have I ever heard of the Erzberg Rodeo, which is a big extreme enduro in Austria? And I said, no. And so he sent me a couple of links, and I said, wow, that seems interesting. Let's do it this way. If you and Gary do the roof that year and you finish well, I will see what I can do about sponsorship. And I remember very well, my budget was, I'm not a big thinker, but I'm a big dreamer. So I said, if we can get 20,000 Rand, then we can pay for, Christ, I don't know what I thought I was going to pay with it. And so on the way back to roof, they both did very well. They both finished. On the way back from the roof, it's a long haul. It's 5 hours on the road. I started phoning people, and by that Friday, I had the money in the bank tenfold of what my budget was. That was the beginning of Team Machine. It was our first official event as we went to Erzberg Rodeo, and the next year we brought 2 Austrian friends over to compete in the Roof of Africa. So
What year was that?
2011 we did Erzberg, and then 2012 the 2 Austrians came to South Africa and they competed with Rimpis. Since then we've made many people who wanted to do the roof, we've made many dreams come true. Because technically and skills wise, both Rimpis and Gary, who's not here, they've helped a hell of a lot of people, and especially Rimpis, and I've helped people from a motivational point of view. So Team Machine is basically about the Roof of Africa. So that's Team Machine.
Yeah,
we do the Roof of Africa.
Yeah,
So
I want to say, so the roof is quite a special event. And
Yes.
since I was a small boy, that's the only thing I wanted to do, is the roof.
I get up there in the mountains, and it is scenic, it is beautiful, it is rough as hell, and it's true and it's honest. And if you've never seen the roof, if you've never done the roof, come and join us this September. It's earlier this year, maybe it'll be back to November, doesn't matter. Team Machine will be there.
I hope it's in November time.
Yeah, yeah, we're under a tight budget here.
Rimpis, the Honda CR500, legendary motorcycle
Yes.
that tamed the most aggressive riders out there. What does this motorcycle mean to you?
So I don't think specifically it's a CR500, it's just a 502 stroke single cylinder. And when I grew up, we grew up with the IT465, the YZ490, the CR500, the KX500. And those things were just unbelievable. I was a small kid, and that was just amazing. And before I could start working and get a proper financial backing or whatever, they stopped making them.
Yeah.
So I never had the opportunity to have one, but that was always a big dream.
Yeah.
500cc two-stroke.
Scare you shitless.
So and then they stopped manufacturing it.
There's a reason why they stopped manufacturing them, because those things are scary. Man, I mean, I've been off motorcycles. I used to race off-road first, and then I used to do road racing. But I always kept my off-road riding skills intact. And about a month ago, the KTM 300 XCW that we have went to a new rider, Isak van der Ham, who's down in East London. And I live on a farm now, and I just had to start the thing and just take it for a twist around the block. I believe my arms were about this much longer when I got back. It's unbelievable. It just pulls like a freight train. You know, look, the YZs that I raced on short circuit, they had power valve, but this thing is just like
A low down
so
talk.
Yes.
man, oh man, I can't wait to ride the beast. This beast, the, what do you call it?
TM 498.
TM498 for Team Machine 498. Why a 498? Because somewhere in the world there's some other record that we might have to break, or that we feel that we might want to break, and there will be some 500cc limit. So where the CR500 has got a 510cc capacity, we went for 498. So he adapted the stroke. The piston is what the piston are, you know, it's one of those things. We adapted the stroke to make it 498. We think we found an opportunity.
Whose idea was this?
It's his stupid idea.
Okay.
So the way that it works in Team Machine, last year he approached me, he said, look, he's designed this barrel, he's found a way to cast it, but it's a lot of money. Why don't we do something in Team Machine this year? And I said, yeah, that's nice, show me the barrel. Oh, that's nice, because I have this design philosophy. If people want something bad enough, they'll keep on coming for it. And I'm not going to be the one that's going to do the work. He's going to do the work. I'll be the team manager and I'll be the lead engineer, because there's a lot of doors that I can open. And so in December, when we had a party, he came back to me and he said, you know, what about that 500? I said, yes, that's a great idea. Let's go for it. Tra-la-la, nothing. And then in January, he came back to him and he said to me, look what these guys in Canada are doing. You know, they've got this whole kit and this is how they put it together. And I went like, "Bing." But there's the plan. That's how you do it. It was the third time that he asked. So you've got to keep on asking.
But the question is why? I mean, you can go buy good big bore two strokes.
You can't.
You can't.
That's the why.
can't.
Not bigger than the
Physically
300.
can't.
Not bigger than
No.
a 300. Yeah. You can buy
You can buy a 4-stroke, but
You can buy a 4-stroke. You can
well,
buy
we priced the kit from Canada. It'll be 150,000 rand. Then you've got the casings, you've got a crank, you've got a piston, you've got a head, you've got the barrel, you've got an expansion box. Then you still have to have a bike and build all of this into it. And 150,000 rand. I said to him, if we're gonna do this, if we're gonna blow this kind of money, let's do it ourselves. And I'm not cheeky. I just said, let's do something fun, you know. And we've got backing. We don't have a lot of backing. We have to be really careful about how we spend our backing. We've got some backing, and we can always do with more backing, guys. I'll give you the link at the end of this thing, but backing is great. But in essence, we've got a lot of friends in South Africa who, there are companies that will do, like L&M Engineering, who will do the machining of a lot of the components, the expensive stuff. We're well advanced. We're sitting here and we're talking as if this is a dream. We've scanned the casings. We've got the question is why. The question is why? Just fucking because.
Because you can.
I think it's
Just
because
fucking because.
you can't buy a proper 500 two-stroke today.
Okay, then the question.
Actually, the thing is, because if I tell you about the small band of brothers that we've got together, it's amazing who we have on this team right now, right here, we can do it.
Now, why do you need more than a 300 two-stroke?
I don't. There's nothing wrong.
There's nothing. No, he's going to cuck. It's going to be.
It's one of those
It's
things.
just a dream.
A 300 is more than enough. You don't need more than that. It's a perfect bike. It's
For many, they argue it's too much.
yes, I agree. No, that thing is sorted out. It's everything that you need. This is, I don't know. This is. Just
That's why they stopped making big ball two-strokes,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
just.
the new bikes are just so good. I can't.
Look, the advantage of going with a bigger bore is that you can stress it less to get similar performance
Dude,
out of a 300.
You can't detune that thing anymore. Niels had to do 12 runs on his simulation package to get it to something reasonable
That you could ride.
that wouldn't just chuck you off. And what was important for me was that it had to have a steady rise. None of those old two-stroke peaky kind of nonsense, but it's
That's
going to
what
be
the
peaky
300s
because if you
introduced.
touch the throttle, if it gets above 3,000 RPM, it's going to start chucking rocks out the back, big time. And it's just not going to stop.
Just to go back to the 300, I think it's just not just me, but I mean that is just an amazing bike.
Yeah.
It's just, you can check, all the extreme guys are using it. It's got enough power, it's got enough torque, it's smooth, it doesn't vibrate, it's got.
But
it's just
he's
amazing.
done it 7 times on a 300. You
Yeah.
know, we need something.
So, do you have any kind of commercial end game here?
No. Look, if there's a
Zero.
spin-off,
It's just
No.
building our
Zero,
own,
no.
building
I
our
thought
own
about it.
motor,
yeah, it's
building
not,
our own motor and doing the roof.
yeah,
Yes, and then keeping the bike.
yeah.
He keeps his bike. I'm gonna keep my bike.
Are we talking liquid cooled?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a proper liquid cooled with a power valve. So it's got all the latest, the new technology compared to the old one.
One of the interesting things that I think that he might need, I'm not 100% sure, so we're going to design it in, is a decompression valve, not to start the thing, but when he goes downhill, he's used to a certain amount of engine braking, and because of this thing's big bore, it might turn out that
It locks up the back
it
wheel.
locks up the back wheel too quickly. We don't know, but so he's designed in a port in the head, and I can screw in something. And today, while I was driving, I figured it out how we're going to do that. We're going to use a KTM 300 gearbox and clutch with
clutch.
uprated springs. Well, the diaphragm will be uprated because the torque is going to be through the roof.
We're going to have the electric start.
The starter motor will be from a 450 4-stroke because we have a lot more capacity. Fortunately, in a 2-stroke, you don't have the real compression ratio, same real compression ratio as in a 4-stroke. So the starter motor should be fine. So we're going to have an electronically controlled power valve. There will be balancer shaft. And interestingly, Niels van Niekerk, who's our specialist engine simulation engineer, and you can Google him, Vanik, vannik.co.za. He's written software for 2-stroke and 4-stroke engine development. His take on it was that you get more power out of an engine with a balancer than without a balancer. And that was the end of the story for me. I was all about, we're going to be gung-ho and hang in tough and stay on the handlebars and whatever. And for various reasons, you make more power if you have a balancer shaft, so we're going to have a balancer shaft. It's as simple as that.
Also, rider fatigue is a massive
Yes.
issue.
I don't give a shit about that. He's the rider.
I care
I
about
really
that.
don't care.
You want to enjoy riding the same.
Well, he was into the balancer shaft very early. He's doing the maths with Niels. So I've explicitly stayed away from fuel injection. I'm old school in that way. Call me old school. Niels and I understand the Mikuni 38mm flat slide carb, and we can get that thing to hum. Where with the fuel injection,
In terms of things
altitude
like
and stuff like
yeah,
that.
I'm just going to say like the roof and altitude
Yeah.
and varying altitudes.
Look, we'll do the setup for the roof, Mike, and usually it's not a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing loses,
And-
a bit of power. At some altitude, who gives a shit?
And in the roof, it's not.
You still got power to
That
burn.
race is not for me in any case. It's not a flat out thing. So
No, not at all.
So yeah, we'll make it slightly richer than required. And
What other race do you want to do with it?
no,
Got to do the
The roof.
desert race, man. Flip
The
it.
roof, the roof is on fire. No, we're just, that bike is explicitly aimed at the roof and ain't nobody else gonna race it.
the one problem that I think we will have is the pipe that's such a big.
No, it's not the same pipe as on the other bike.
It's going to be a big pipe. We're going to flatten it against all those roof rocks.
There's gonna be enough gas getting through, boy. You're gonna be so happy when you flatten it. You're gonna look for a big rock to fucking flatten it against. Let me get this thing mild. Bang! Put it against the rock. I can just imagine that.
See, what's unique for me about this is that you've got a bunch of motorcycle enthusiast engineers wanting to build a bike for shits and giggles.
Yes.
Every other oak wants to build a bike because he can sell the patent to frickin' whoever.
Yeah.
It's a case
we
of,
don't
listen,
give a
we can
screw.
do it. Why don't we do it? You can't get those things anymore. They were so freaking awesome. Why don't we make a new
Yes.
one? And I
Well,
think that
a
makes
better
this
one.
story unique.
We're gonna make a better one because it's gonna have power valve.
You make it's a modern take
It's a modern
on,
take, yeah.
on something that Jimmy Lewis used to call CR500's data slide. So it doesn't matter what gear you were
Yeah,
in, it just freaking
just-
spun up the back wheel.
Just gooi.
Okay, now what frame is this thing going in?
It's going straight back in. It's going to be a 300 XCW.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've scanned the standard casings.
So it's to
and
be compatible for fitment
Yes.
to
Fitment.
yeah, we want to build an engine.
yeah.
That's step one is build an engine. Step two
Yeah.
is build something ridiculous.
Weet nie, jy like fun chassis.
I'll get my opportunity. Jock and I are brooding up something, but
Yeah.
that's for another episode.
Yeah. Okay.
You spoke about the members of the team, so there's myself, Koos Hitzman. I'm the lead engineer, which means that I oversee a lot of the activities because I've got years of experience as a vehicle design engineer and also having built and raced my own motorcycles. There's a lot of stuff that I know. There's also a lot of people I know out in the industry. So I look holistically after the whole thing.
Yes.
Rimpy's here. It's his dream. He's the engineer responsible for design, the physical design of the engine. Then we've got Niels van Niekerk, who is a world authority on two-stroke design and development. He was at varsity with me. So he's my age.
Ken hom daarom ook.
Yeah. And then we've got Jock, who's a young design engineer, also from University of Pretoria, who did the roof last year.
Jock, wat sê van
Jock has been with OTT
Work-
when I
work-
worked. And then, just as a surprise innings, I've got a friend who's a South African living in the UK, Piet van Sail, who's going to do the detailed design of the various gears that we need. So we need a new gear between the crank and the clutch. Then we need a gear set for the balancer shaft, and then we need a gear set for the starter motor.
Yeah.
Those are the three gear sets. Piet left South Africa in about 1988 to work for McLaren for many years. He designed all their he did the detailed design of their gears, and after that he went to X-Track, also detailed design of gears, and now he's running his own business just because he can. He doesn't have to. He enjoys it. So he's the the gear design engineer. And other than that, we've got companies supporting us, South African companies, too many to mention. The Hydraulic Connection is the big one. They are the ones that put up the funding for this. And then L&M Engineering, who've kindly agreed to machine the casings for us.